The journey began as Lori stepped through the shimmering portal with Nyala and the other Virillians. Their bodies seemed to stretch and compress at the same time as they traveled through what Nyala called the void between realms. Lori felt no pain, only a strange tingling sensation, as if every cell in her body was being gently rearranged. When the sensation stopped, Lori found herself standing on a platform overlooking a vast city, unlike anything she had ever seen. Towering spires of crystal and metal reached toward a lavender sky. 3 moons of different sizes hung on the horizon, casting multiple shadows across the landscape. Below the platform, thousands of Virillians moved through wide boulevards, their blue skin shimmering in the strange light. "Welcome to Virilia Prime." Nyala said, her voice somehow both in Lori's ears and inside her mind. "This is our homeworld, one of 17 planets in our Federation." Lori struggled to find words. The crystal around her neck pulsed, warmly helping to calm her racing heart. "Is this real?" she finally managed to ask. Nyala smiled. "As real as the farm you left behind. The crystal will help your mind process what you see. Without it, the sensory input might overwhelm your neural pathways." Elegant vehicle that seemed to float above the ground approached the platform. Nyala gestured toward it. "We must present you to the council. They are eager to meet the human who showed such compassion." The journey through the city was overwhelming. Buildings that seemed to defy gravity curved and twisted in impossible ways. Virillians stopped to stare at Lori, some bowing their heads in what seemed like respect, others making gestures she didn't understand. Through it all, Nyala explained the history of their civilization, how they had evolved from simple aquatic beings to masters of interdimensional travel over millions of years. The council chambers stood at the center of the city, a massive dome that seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with energy. Inside, 12 Virillians sat in a semicircle. Their skin was darker than Nyala's, almost indigo, and they wore elaborate garments that seemed woven from light itself. The eldest of the council members approached Lori. "Her name is Ilara," Nyala explained. "She is our first speaker, over 400 of your Earth years old, Lori Mason of Earth." Ilara spoke, her voice melodic. "We welcome you as the first human to stand before the Virillian Council. Your act of kindness toward Nyala has opened our eyes to the potential of your species." Lori swallowed nervously. "Thank you, I only did what anyone would do." A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the council. "That is where you are wrong," Ilara said. "We have observed your planet for centuries. Most humans would have reacted with fear, violence, or greed. You showed compassion to a being completely unknown to you. Such compassion is rare, even among the oldest civilizations." Over the next several hours, the council explained why Lori had been brought to Virilia. The galaxy was changing. They said ancient barriers between civilizations were breaking down, a new era of cooperation was beginning, and Earth, despite its primitive technology, was being considered for contact, but we needed proof that humans were ready. Ilara said, "Your interaction with Nyala provided that proof. Now we offer you a choice." Lori listened carefully as the options were presented. She could become an ambassador living on Virilia and learning their ways to prepare humanity for eventual contact. Or she could return to Earth with enhanced knowledge and abilities to subtly guide human development toward a path that would make them worthy of joining the galactic community. "The decision is not to be made lightly," Nyala said. "You will have time to consider. We have prepared living quarters for you to rest and reflect." The chamber where Lori was taken was both alien and somehow familiar. The bed, if it could be called that, seemed to be a pool of softly glowing liquid supported by an invisible field. The walls shifted colors responding to her emotional state. Food appeared in recesses without any visible delivery system. The bathroom facilities took some figuring out, but somehow adapted to her human needs that night as she stared out at the 3 moons through a window that could zoom in on any detail. She wished Lori contemplated her situation. Just days ago, she had been a simple farm woman living a quiet life. Now, she stood at the crossroads of human history. Whatever she decided would affect not just her future, but potentially the future of her entire species. The next morning, Nyala arrived to show her more of Virillian society. They visited what Nyala called the Hall of Knowledge, a vast library, containing the history and scientific discoveries of thousands of civilizations. Here, Lori learned of the true scale of galactic society. Millions of inhabited worlds, some much like Earth, others so different they defied description, existed within their galaxy alone. Why has Earth been isolated for so long? Lori asked as they walked through holographic displays of star systems. Nyala guided her to a section showing Earth's solar system. Your world is in what we call a quarantine zone, a region where developing species are allowed to evolve without interference. It's for your protection as much as anything else. Premature contact has destroyed promising civilizations before throughout. The day Lori was introduced to various aspects of Virillian life. She met scientists who explained technologies that seemed like magic healers, who could cure diseases with a touch, artists who created works in dimensions Lori couldn't fully perceive. Everyone treated her with a mixture of curiosity and respect, watching her reactions to their world with fascination. That evening, a celebration was held in her honor. Virillian music filled the air, strange, haunting melodies that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate directly with her soul. The food, while completely alien, was adjusted to be compatible with her biology, exploding with flavors she had no words to describe. As the celebration reached its peak, Nyala took Lori to a quiet balcony overlooking the city, now lit by countless lights that danced and shifted like living things. "Tomorrow you will meet others," Nyala said. "Others like you." Lori turned in surprise. "Others? Human ambassadors?" Nyala shook her head. "Not exactly, but you are not the first Earth being to join us. You will understand tomorrow. For now, rest and enjoy this night. The crystal around your neck will help you process all you've experienced." That night, Lori's dreams were filled with stars and strange voices calling to her from across vast distances. When she woke, the crystal was glowing brightly, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She felt different somehow, as if her mind had expanded overnight. Knowledge she hadn't possessed before floated just below the surface of her consciousness. Nyala arrived as Lori was finishing a breakfast of fruit that tasted like a combination of strawberries and something entirely new. "It is time," she said. "You have adapted well. The council is pleased. Where are we going?" Lori asked as they boarded the floating vehicle to the Enclave. Nyala replied, "Where the others live. Those who came before you. From your world and others like it. You will find it illuminating." As they traveled away from the main city, Lori noticed the landscape changing. Becoming more Earth-like, trees similar to pines lined the route, and the architecture became less alien, more reminiscent of human design. She caught glimpses of figures that moved in familiar ways, not with the fluid grace of Virillians. The vehicle stopped before a complex of buildings that could have been from Earth, except for the materials they were made from. A group of beings waited at the entrance. As Lori stepped out of the vehicle, her heart nearly stopped. They were human. Or at least they appeared human at first glance, but as they approached, she noticed subtle differences. Their eyes held the same ancient wisdom she had seen in the Virillian Council. Their movements, while human, had a grace that spoke of something more. "Welcome, sister," one of them said, a woman who appeared to be in her 60s, though something about her suggested she was much older. "My name is Grace. I was the first." "The first?" Lori repeated, confused. "The first human ambassador," Grace smiled. "The first to be chosen over 200 years ago by your calendar." Lori felt the crystal warm against her skin as understanding dawned. "The choice you offered me. It has been offered before. Many times." Nyala confirmed, "To those who proved worthy. But now the time for individual ambassadors is ending. Now we prepare for full contact, and you, Lori Mason, will help us determine when and how that contact should occur." Lori looked at the gathered humans. Questions flooded her mind, but before she could ask, Grace took her hand. "Come, there is much to show you and much to prepare for. The stars await, and your journey has just begun." Grace led Lori through the Enclave, introducing her to the other human ambassadors. There were 23 of them in total, each selected from different time periods and regions of Earth. The oldest was Grace, who had been taken from her home in Boston in 1824. The most recent before Lori was a woman named Abby, who had been rescued from a sinking ship off the coast of Alaska just 10 years earlier. They all shared stories similar to Lori's. Each had encountered a Virillian in distress and had offered help without hesitation or fear. In return, they had been given the choice to join the galactic community as representatives of humanity. "You were all supposed to be dead," Grace explained as they sat in a garden that contained plants. "From a dozen worlds, your disappearances were arranged to minimize disruption to the timeline. In my case, I was believed lost at sea. In Abby's case, the entire crew of her fishing vessel was rescued, but she was listed among those washed overboard." Lori thought of the note she'd left behind. Would people think she had simply abandoned her farm as necessary? Nyala said, seeming to read her thoughts. "We cannot allow knowledge of our existence to spread before humanity is ready. The consequences could be severe." "What exactly do we do here?" Lori asked, looking around at the compound, which seemed to be a strange blend of Earth comforts and alien technology. "We learn," Grace said, "and we advise. The Council depends on our understanding of human nature to guide their decisions about Earth. They believe that full contact is coming soon, perhaps within a decade, but the approach must be carefully calculated." That afternoon, Lori was shown the work of the Enclave. In one building, humans collaborated, with Virillian scientists studying the effects of advanced technology on developing societies. In another, they monitored communications from Earth, analyzing cultural shifts and technological developments. They even had access to something called the Temporal Observatory, which allowed them to view possible futures based on different contact scenarios. Most of these futures were troubling, Abby explained as they watched holographic projections of Earth cities in chaos. Fear, xenophobia, religious upheaval, economic collapse. The sudden introduction of advanced alien technology often led to disaster, but not always. Grace added, changing the projection to show a peaceful integration. Careful preparation, subtle guidance, and selecting the right moment can lead to acceptance. What we do here is find that path, the narrow way forward that benefits both humanity and the galactic community. Throughout the day, Lori met the other ambassadors, learning their stories and responsibilities. Kelly, a nurse from Chicago in the 1950s, specialized in medical compatibility between species. Sam, a teacher from Australia in the 1990s, focused on educational approaches to prepare young humans for the concept of alien life. Maya, a programmer from India, in the early 2000s worked on ways to integrate Earth computer systems with galactic networks without causing collapse. Each night for the next week, Lori would return to her quarters, her mind overwhelmed with new information. The crystal around her neck grew warmer, more attuned to her thoughts, helping her process what would otherwise be incomprehensible. Sometimes she would wake with new knowledge, as if the crystal had been teaching her while she slept. On the 8th day, Neela came to her with news. "The Council wishes you to begin your formal training," she said. "You have adapted well, faster than most. They believe you have potential for a special role." "What role?" Lori asked. Nyala hesitated, then said, "Follow me. There is something you need to see." They traveled beyond the Enclave to a secluded facility built into the side of a mountain. Inside, Lori was led through security measures more stringent than anything she'd encountered so far. Finally, they entered a chamber where a single Virillian sat monitoring displays that showed various locations on Earth. "This is the guidance center," Nyala explained. "From here we provide subtle assistance to certain humans, those whose actions might help prepare Earth for contact." Lori watched in amazement as the displays showed scientists, politicians, artists, and educators around the world. Some worked on technologies that seemed oddly advanced for Earth. Others promoted messages of unity and cosmic awareness through their work. "Don't control them," Nyala clarified, seeing Lori's expression. "We simply offer inspiration through dreams, subtle nudges toward discoveries they would eventually make anyway. The crystal you wear is a more direct version of this technology. Is that ethical?" Lori asked, disturbed by the implications. The Virillian at the console turned to face her. "We asked the same question for centuries," he said, which is more ethical to allow a promising species to destroy itself through ignorance or to offer gentle guidance toward survival. We never force, always suggest we plant seeds of possibility. Nothing more. Lori wasn't entirely convinced, but she continued to follow Nyala deeper into the facility. Finally, they reached a door that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. What you see beyond this point is known only to the Council and a few select ambassadors. Nyala said, her voice solemn. The reason we believe contact must happen soon. The room beyond was circular, its walls covered with displays showing Earth from various perspectives. Some showed cities, some showed natural environments, others showed the planet from orbit. But all the displays had one thing in common. They showed degradation, pollution, climate, destabilization, resource depletion. Earth is approaching a tipping point, Nyla said softly. Your people have perhaps 30 years before the damage becomes irreversible without intervention. We have seen it happen to other worlds. Some recover, most do not. Lori felt a chill run through her. This is why you brought me here, to help save my planet. Not just that. Nyala touched a control and the displays changed, showing the solar system. Then wider the local star cluster. Then the entire spiral arm of the galaxy. Red markers appeared throughout the displays, dozens, then hundreds. These are civilizations in crisis, Nyala explained. Some facing natural disasters, others their own version of what Earth faces still. Others threatened by conflicts or biological challenges. The galaxy is entering a period of instability. A great transition. We believe it is connected to movements in the cosmic web energy patterns that affect all living things. Lori tried to comprehend the scale of what she was seeing. What can we possibly do against something so vast? Nyala smiled. The Council believes that Earth, despite its challenges, has unique qualities. Humanity has demonstrated remarkable resilience, creativity, and adaptability, qualities that will be needed in the times ahead. With proper guidance, your species could become not just another member of the galactic community, but a crucial one. The next day, Lori began her formal training. It was far more intense than she had expected. The crystal accelerated her learning, allowing her to absorb languages, mathematics, sciences, and histories that would normally take decades to master. She learned to operate Virillian technology, to understand their philosophies, and to navigate the complex politics of the Galactic Federation. Throughout her training, she continued to meet with the other ambassadors, learning from their experiences and specialties. Grace became a mentor, guiding Lori through the subtleties of her new role. After 3 months, by her reckoning, though, time seemed to flow differently on Virilia. Lori was summoned before the Council again. You have progressed well, Alara, the first speaker said. We believe you are ready for your first assignment. Lori stood straighter, feeling both nervous and proud. What would you have me do? Alara gestured, and a holographic image of Earth appeared, focusing on a small town in the American Midwest. A research facility. There is close to a discovery that could either harm or help Earth's future. We need you to observe and assess, to determine if guidance is needed and what form it should take. Will I be going back to Earth? Lori asked, her heart suddenly racing at the thought. Not physically. Nyala explained. The risk of detection is too great. But through the temporal observatory, you will be able to observe, interact through dreams, and even manifest briefly as a projection. For most purposes, it will be as if you are there. That night, Lori prepared for her mission, packing the few personal items she had acquired during her stay, including a journal in which she had recorded her experiences. The crystal around her neck had changed, becoming more transparent, more integrated with her energy field. She hardly noticed its weight anymore. As she looked out at the alien sunset, she thought about how far she had come from her simple farm life. She had been given an extraordinary opportunity, not just to see the universe, but to help shape the future of her own species. The responsibility was enormous, but for the first time since arriving on Virilia, she felt truly ready. Nyala came to escort her to the temporal observatory. Are you prepared? She asked. The first mission is always the most challenging. Lori nodded. I think so. Though I still have so many questions. Questions are good, Nyala replied. They show wisdom. The moment we stop questioning is the moment we stop growing. Your capacity for questions is one of the reasons you were chosen. The temporal observatory was housed in a dome at the highest point of the city, inside a circular platform surrounded by technology too advanced for Lori to fully comprehend. Despite her training, the other ambassadors had gathered to witness her first mission. Grace stepped forward and embraced her. "Remember," she said, "your humanity is your greatest strength, not a weakness. Trust your instincts as well as your training." The laboratory hummed with activity as Lori observed unseen from her position near the wall. Scientists in white coats moved between workstations, checking data on screens and adjusting equipment. She focused on a woman in her 30s who seemed to be leading the team. Dr. Ellen Porter, according to the name badge on her lab coat. According to the briefing Lori had received, Dr. Porter was on the verge of a breakthrough in quantum communication technology, a discovery that could either lead to beneficial global connectivity or dangerous surveillance capabilities, depending on how it was developed and implemented. Lori's job was to assess Dr. Porter's intentions, and if necessary, provide subtle guidance toward positive applications. For 3 days, Lori observed the laboratory, learning the rhythms of the research team and studying their work. The crystal allowed her to understand the complex physics involved far beyond her previous education. She watched Dr. Porter work tirelessly, often staying long after the others had left, muttering to herself about applications and possibilities. On the 4th night, as Dr. Porter worked alone, Lori decided it was time for first contact. Focusing her energy through the crystal as she had been trained, she entered Dr. Porter's dreams. The dreamscape formed around them, a neutral space that resembled a garden with strange glowing plants, a combination of earth and Virillian vegetation. Dr. Porter appeared confused, looking around at the unfamiliar surroundings. "Where am I?" she asked, to no one in particular. "This isn't my usual dream." Lori made herself visible, taking form as a silhouette of light rather than her human appearance. "I wanted to talk to you about your work," she said, keeping her voice gentle. Dr. Porter showed remarkably little fear, merely curiosity. "Who or what are you?" "A friend," Lori replied. "Someone who understands what you're trying to achieve with your quantum communication research." Dr. Porter's eyes widened. "How could you know about that?" "I know many things," Lori said. "Your work has implications beyond what you might realize. It could connect people across vast distances, bring understanding to divided communities. But it could also be weaponized, used to invade privacy and control information." Dr. Porter frowned. "That hadn't escaped my notice." "The military funding comes with expectations." Lori moved closer, showing glimpses of possible futures through the crystal technology. "The quantum field you're manipulating connects to other systems in ways your instruments can't detect yet. If you adjust your approach, focusing on the resonance patterns rather than the particle entanglement, you might find a path that resists centralized control." They talked for what seemed like hours. Lori carefully sharing insights that would nudge the research toward beneficial outcomes, without revealing too much about her true nature or the source of her knowledge. When Dr. Porter finally began to wake, Lori left her with a final thought: consider what you're creating. Remember that tools reflect the intentions of their creators. Make something that connects rather than divides. Over the next week, Lori continued to observe, noting with satisfaction that Dr. Porter had implemented some of the suggestions from the dream-making adjustments to her research approach. Each night, Lori would return to her physical form on Virilia to report her findings to Nyala and the other ambassadors. "You've done well with the subtle approach," Nyala said after reviewing the data. "But the situation has become more urgent. Intelligence suggests that a rival research team backed by more aggressive interests is approaching similar discoveries. We may need more direct intervention." The council authorized a brief physical manifestation, a risky move that would allow Lori to appear in the laboratory for a few minutes at most. It would drain significant energy from the temporal observatory, but might be necessary to ensure Dr. Porter made the right choices at this critical juncture. Lori prepared carefully for the manifestation, studying the security systems of the laboratory and the schedules of its occupants. She chose a time when Dr. Porter would be working alone, late in The evening on Virilia, she stood on the observatory platform as technicians activated the enhanced protocols. The crystal at her throat pulsed with intense energy as her form became translucent, then began to disappear. The sensation was different from dreamwalking. This time she felt the physical discomfort of having her molecules stretched across space. She materialized in the laboratory with a soft glow that quickly faded to reveal her human appearance. Dr. Porter dropped the tablet. She was holding her mouth open in shock. "How did you— The doors are locked, the security." "No time to explain," Lori said, moving quickly to the main computer terminal. "I need to show you something important, something about the quantum resonance patterns you've been studying." Despite her shock, Dr. Porter moved closer. Academic curiosity overcoming fear. "You're her errant you, the woman from my dreams." Lori nodded as she brought up the research data, making quick adjustments to reveal patterns that had been hidden. "These frequency alignments," she pointed. "They can be tuned to work with human brainwaves, creating communication that can't be intercepted or monitored, but only if developed with that specific intention from the beginning." Dr. Porter watched in amazement as Lori demonstrated modifications to the experimental protocols. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Who are you really? Where did you learn this?" Lori felt the warning vibration from the crystal. Her manifestation was already fading. "Let's just say I'm interested in helping humanity reach its potential, rather than destroy itself. The choices you make with this technology will affect millions. Look beyond the military applications. Consider the healing possibilities, the educational opportunities." As her form began to shimmer, Dr. Porter reached out. "Don't go, I have so many questions." Lori smiled. "Trust yourself, Ellen. Your instincts are good. You want to help people, not control them. Remember that when they pressure you to weaponize your discovery." With those final words, Lori vanished, her consciousness snapping back to the platform on Virilia. She collapsed into Nyala's waiting arms, the energy expenditure leaving her temporarily weakened. "You pushed the boundaries of protocol," Nyala said, helping Lori to a recovery chamber, "but the Council agrees it was necessary. The trajectory of Dr. Porter's research has been significantly altered." Over the following weeks, Lori continued to monitor Dr. Porter's progress through the observatory. She watched as the scientist deliberately steered her research away from military applications, focusing instead on medical uses for quantum communication, developing ways to connect with coma patients, and improving global emergency response systems. When government officials pressured her, she stood firm, insisting that her discovery would be used to heal, not harm. Lori's successful mission earned her increased responsibilities. She was assigned to guide a small team of newer ambassadors, helping them learn the delicate art of intervention without disruption. Together, they monitored several key developments on Earth, subtly influencing researchers, educators, and artists toward paths that would prepare humanity for eventual contact. 6 months into her new role, Lori was summoned to an emergency council meeting. The mood was tense as she entered the chamber. Ilara, the first speaker, looked grave. "We have detected an anomaly," she announced. "A breach in the quarantine zone surrounding Earth. Unauthorized contact has occurred." The chamber filled with murmurs of concern as holographic displays showed images of a remote village in the mountains of Nepal, where a damaged spacecraft had been seen by locals. Nyala stepped forward to explain. "Appears to be a vessel from the Draconid Collective," she said. "They are not part of the Federation. Their philosophy regarding developing worlds differs significantly from ours. They believe in direct intervention conquest." Lori felt a chill. "What does this mean for Earth?" "It means," Ilara replied, "we must accelerate our timetable. The Draconids will not respect Earth's natural development. They see your world as a resource to be exploited. If they establish a foothold, the consequences could be severe." The Council had already dispatched a containment team to recover the crashed vessel and minimize exposure, but the damage was done. Stories were spreading, images had been captured. The careful quarantine that had protected Earth for millennia was compromised. "We need a new approach." Ilara continued, "One that prepares selected humans for the reality of galactic civilization, before the Draconids can spread fear and confusion. Lori, we believe you should return to Earth physically this time. Lori was stunned return. But I thought the risks of inaction are now greater. Nyala explained. You know both worlds. You can help establish a secure communication channel with reliable human partners. People who will respond with wisdom rather than fear. Grace, who had been observing, silently stepped forward. I have maintained connections with certain family lines throughout the generations. She said, my descendants, while not knowing of my continued existence, have been subtly prepared through family stories and traditions. Lori could begin there. The mission parameters were quickly established. Lori would return to Earth with advanced technology disguised as ordinary objects. She would make contact with Grace's descendants now living in Colorado and establish a small network of humans who could serve as intermediaries when full contact eventually occurred. She would have a Virillian support team nearby but would largely operate independently, relying on her training and the enhanced abilities granted by the crystal. Lori materialized in a forested area outside Boulder, Colorado. The early morning mist concealed the brief flash of her arrival as the transport energies dissipated. She took her first breath of Earth air in nearly a year by her personal timeline, though according to her briefing only 2 months had passed on Earth since her departure. The crystal at her throat adjusted immediately, helping her body acclimate to Earth's gravity and atmosphere. She wore ordinary clothes, jeans, a flannel shirt, and hiking boots with a backpack containing her few possessions. To any observer, she would appear to be nothing more than a woman enjoying an early morning hike. But the backpack contained technology centuries beyond current Earth capabilities, and the crystal, now partially embedded in her skin, gave her abilities that would seem miraculous to humans. According to her mission briefing, Grace's descendant lived in a small house on the outskirts of Boulder. A woman named Kate Morgan, a botanist, who specialized in endangered plant species. Kate was 32, unmarried, and by all accounts highly intelligent with an open mind and strong ethical principles. Making contact with her was Lori's first priority. Lori hiked down to a nearby road, where her support team had left a used car with appropriate registration and identification documents. She drove toward Boulder, marveling at how simultaneously familiar and foreign Earth now seemed. The buildings, the roads, the advertisements all reminded her of the life she'd left behind. But now she saw them through different eyes, recognizing the primitive technology, the wasteful use of resources, the narrow perspective of a species that believed itself alone in the universe. She found Kate Morgan's house easily a modest bungalow with an extensive garden filled with native plants. Lori parked across the street and observed for a while, noting the solar panels on the roof, the rainwater collection system, and the absence of chemical pesticides. Good signs that Kate shared some of Grace's environmental awareness. Rather than approaching directly, Lori chose to establish proximity first. She checked into a small bed and breakfast nearby and spent several days learning the rhythms of the neighborhood. The crystal allowed her to access Earth's digital networks wirelessly, creating a convincing background identity as Laura Mason, a freelance environmental consultant new to the area. On her 4th day, Lori spotted Kate at the local farmer's market examining heirloom vegetable varieties. She approached, casually complimenting Kate's selection of rare tomatoes. The conversation flowed naturally as Lori had been trained to initiate contact without suspicion. They discovered shared interests in sustainable agriculture and ecosystem restoration. Kate mentioned her work with endangered alpine plants. Lori spoke of her supposed consulting work, helping farms reduce chemical dependencies. A foundation for connection was established. Over the next 2 weeks, Lori engineered several more accidental meetings, gradually building rapport and trust. She was careful not to rush, knowing that Kate must come to trust her completely before any revelation could be made. Finally, Kate invited her to dinner at her home, the opportunity Lori had been waiting for. The small bungalow was filled with books, plants, and curious objects from Kate's fieldwork. Lori noticed family photographs on the walls, scanning them with enhanced vision provided by the crystal. Yes. There was Grace in an old sepia photograph labeled Great-Great-Grandmother, Grace Morgan, 1820, 1866. Lost at sea. The family resemblance between Grace and Kate was subtle but unmistakable in the shape of the eyes, and the determined set of the jaw. Kate proved to be an excellent cook and a better conversationalist. As they shared a bottle of wine, Lori carefully guided the discussion toward Kate's family history. "My family has always been a bit unusual," Kate said, "especially the women, strong-minded, independent. The family joke is that we're descended from witches, but really, I think it was just women ahead of their time." Lori smiled. "They sound remarkable." Kate nodded. "There are family stories passed down, especially about my great-great-grandmother Grace. She supposedly had strange knowledge of plants that weren't documented in any botanical texts of her time. Some of her journals survived. They're quite fascinating. Actually, unusual for the period. They contain references to what we would now call ecological thinking, understanding plants as part of interconnected systems. Exactly the opening Lori needed. Those sound fascinating. I'd love to see them sometime." Kate hesitated, then nodded. "Why? Not now. I keep them in my study. They're quite fragile, but I've digitized most of them." The journals were indeed Grace's, though heavily coded to hide their true meaning from casual readers. Grace had carefully embedded information about the Virillians and their first contact with Earth disguised as botanical observations and family records. Only someone who knew what to look for would recognize the references to beings from beyond the stars or the subtle star maps hidden in what appeared to be flower diagrams. Lori recognized the coding immediately, having studied it during her preparation. "Amazing," she said, genuinely impressed. "Your ancestor was remarkable." Kate beamed with pride. "The women in my family have always said Grace was special, that she knew things others didn't. She disappeared at sea, but some family stories suggest she didn't die, that she went somewhere else. She used to tell my ancestors to watch the stars, that friends would come from there someday." Lori felt the crystal, warm against her skin. It was time. The groundwork had been perfectly laid by Grace across generations. Kate was already primed to accept the truth. "What would you say, Kate, if I told you those stories might be true?" Kate tilted her head, studying Lori with new interest. "What do you mean?" Lori touched the crystal, which began to glow softly. "I'm not exactly who you think I am, Kate. And your great-great-grandmother Grace didn't die at sea. She made a choice to help humanity prepare for a future that is now arriving." Over the next several hours, Lori revealed the truth in carefully measured amounts, showing Kate evidence through the crystal's projection capabilities, answering questions and addressing fears. Kate moved through shock to disbelief, to wonder, and finally to cautious acceptance. "Grace is alive," Kate whispered after seeing a projected image of her ancestor. As she now appeared, "Yes," Lori confirmed. "She has lived among the Virillians for over 200 years. Earth time, she helped prepare the way for what must happen now." When Kate asked why Lori was telling her this, Lori explained about the Draconid incursion, the accelerated timetable for contact, and the need for human intermediaries, people who could help prepare others, gradually for the reality of galactic civilization. "We need your help," Lori said, "to establish a network of trustworthy humans, people like you with open minds and strong ethics who won't panic or try to weaponize this knowledge." Kate paced her living room, processing everything she'd learned. "Is this why I've always felt different?" she asked, "like I was waiting for something. My whole life, I've had these dreams of other worlds I've never quite fit in." "Those are echoes," Lori explained. "Grace has been watching over your family line for generations, occasionally sending dreams guidance. The crystal technology allows for such connections across distance." By dawn, Kate had made her decision. "I'll help," she said. "My whole life has prepared me for this. Somehow I can feel it, but I'm not naive enough to think everyone will react as I have. Most people would panic if suddenly told aliens exist, especially if some are hostile. Exactly why we need a careful approach." Lori agreed. "The next step is to identify others who might be receptive. Scientists, educators, people of influence who can help shape public opinion, positively prepare the groundwork." Over the following month, Lori and Kate worked together to identify potential network members. Beginning with Kate's trusted colleagues, they gradually expanded their circle using the crystal, to verify trustworthiness and appropriate psychological profiles. A quantum physicist, a climate scientist, a progressive religious leader, a popular science educator, each was approached, carefully assessed, and if appropriate, gradually introduced to the truth. Laurie's Virillian support team remained hidden, monitoring Earth communications for signs of Draconid activity and providing resources when needed. But the work of building human trust necessarily fell to Laurie. The crystal technology allowed her to share controlled visions of Virilia, demonstrate advanced knowledge, and even heal minor ailments as proof of her claims. But the human connection, the building of trust, came from her own humanity, her understanding of how people thought and felt. Not everyone accepted the truth. Some reacted with fear despite careful preparation. Others seemed accepting, but the crystal detected deception intentions to exploit the knowledge for personal gain. These candidates were carefully guided away, their memories of the encounters gently modified by the crystal technology, not erased but softened into dreams, doubts, uncertainties. 3 months into her mission, the network had grown to 27 humans spread across key positions in science education, government, and media. Each had been carefully vetted. Each had seen proof. Each had sworn to maintain secrecy until the time for wider revelation. Then came the first crisis. A Draconid scout ship was detected observing a military installation in Nevada. Unlike the Virillians, who respected Earth's development, the Draconids sought to exploit technological vulnerabilities. Their ship was using active scanning, methods that Earth instruments could detect, causing confusion and alarm among human military officials. Winter settled over Colorado as Laurie expanded the human network. Each new member brought valuable skills and perspectives, but also increased the risk of exposure. The Draconid presence on Earth was growing too. Intelligence gathered through the crystal indicated at least 30 infiltrators now operating across the globe. Their technology, though advanced, was detectable, thanks to the equipment Laurie had provided to key network scientists. The network now operated from multiple secure locations. A renovated ranch outside Boulder served as their main headquarters, disguised as an environmental research foundation. With Kate as its public face, the foundation provided legitimate cover for their activities, allowing network members to travel, meet, and share information without arousing suspicion. Laurie stood at the window of the ranch house, watching snow fall on the mountains. Beyond those peaks, beyond this world, decisions were being made about Earth's future. The council remained divided on how much assistance to provide. The non-interference protocol still largely in place. Despite the Draconid threat, we're making progress, Kate said, joining her at the window. The satellite modifications are complete. We can now track Draconid movements from orbit. Their disguise technology can't hide their unique energy signature. Laurie nodded. It's not enough, though. We can see them, but we can't stop them, not without revealing ourselves. The military would panic if we suddenly told them aliens are infiltrating key installations. They had been playing a delicate game for months, tracking Draconid activities using network members to subtly counter their influence without exposing either side. When Draconids attempted to manipulate a government official, the network would find ways to isolate that official or counter the manipulation. When Draconid technology appeared in corporate research, the network would find ways to delay or redirect it. But it was a holding action at best. The Draconids were patient, prepared to spend years establishing their presence before making any overt moves. Their goal seemed to be technological harvesting, learning Earth's capabilities, before revealing themselves as benefactors, bearing gifts designed to create dependency and control. At times, Laurie questioned the Virillian approach. Was non-interference truly better than the Draconid method? The crystal at her throat would warm in response to such thoughts, sharing memories of other worlds where premature contact had led to disaster, religious upheaval, technological dependency, cultural collapse. The Virillian way might be frustratingly slow, but it was based on thousands of years of experience with developing civilizations. 1 year into her mission, Laurie received an unexpected communication from the Council. Nyala herself would be coming to Earth, a highly unusual step that indicated the seriousness of the situation. The council member would arrive disguised as a human to evaluate conditions firsthand. Nyala arrived during a spring rainstorm, appearing at the ranch without warning. She wore human form perfectly, her blue skin and elongated features hidden behind a projection that even the most sophisticated Earth technology could not detect. Only the crystal allowed Lori to see her true nature. "The situation has escalated," Nyala explained as they walked the perimeter of the property. "The Draconids have contacted their homeworld for reinforcements. They plan to establish a permanent base, most likely in a remote region. Their assessment of Earth technology suggests they believe humans can be easily controlled through superior technology and biological manipulation." Lori felt a chill. "What does the Council propose, The Council remains divided," Nyala admitted. "Some believe we should maintain protocols, allow Earth to develop at its own pace, even if that means Draconid interference. Others, myself included, believe that circumstances have changed, that Earth deserves more direct protection." Hope flared in Lori. "Will the Council intervene then?" "Not directly," Nyala qualified. "But they have authorized a significant technology transfer, more than we have ever shared with a developing world. The decision was not unanimous, but the evidence you've gathered of Draconid intentions was compelling." Over the next week, Nyala shared advanced knowledge with the network technology that could detect and neutralize Draconid influence methods for secure communication, immune to interception, medical advances that could identify and counter Draconid biological agents. The crystal that Lori wore was duplicated in simplified form, allowing trusted network members to share information instantly across vast distances. Most significantly, Nyala revealed the location of a hidden Virillian outpost established centuries ago in the mountains of Tibet, a small facility staffed by 3 Virillians who had maintained Earth's quarantine for generations, watching, but never interfering. This outpost would now serve as a direct link to Virillia, providing resources and guidance as needed. "Why reveal this now?" Lori asked. "When we've struggled alone for a year," Nyala's expression was solemn. "The Council's analysis suggests a tipping point has been reached. The Draconids have learned too much about your political and economic systems. They are targeting key weaknesses. If they succeed in their current plans, Earth will become a client world within a decade. Recovering your independence would take centuries, if ever." As Nyala prepared to return to Virillia, she shared one final piece of information. "The Council has authorized full disclosure to Earth governments if the situation deteriorates further. Controlled revelation. Under our guidance rather than Draconid manipulation." The implications were enormous. Humanity learning. It was not alone in the universe. The potential for panic, fear, religious crisis was significant, but the alternative, Draconid control, might be worse. "Choose your moment carefully," Nyala advised. "If revelation becomes necessary, it must be managed by those who understand human psychology. The network you've built will be essential in maintaining stability." After Nyala's departure, Lori called an emergency meeting of the network's leadership council. Now 30 members strong, representing key sectors of human society, the council had become an effective shadow organization, working to protect Earth without public knowledge. Kate, as always, served as Lori's primary partner, the human face of their operation. The information Nyala provided changes everything Lori told them. "We now have the means to more effectively counter the Draconid presence, but we also have a greater responsibility. If their plans advance much further, we may need to initiate controlled disclosure, revealing the truth to select government leaders." The debate was intense. Some network members, particularly those in scientific fields, argued for immediate disclosure. Others feared the consequences of revealing too much too soon. The compromise position was to prepare for disclosure while continuing counter-infiltration efforts. Using the enhanced Crystal Technology Network, members began carefully documenting Draconid activities, creating evidence that could be presented to government officials if necessary. They developed psychological profiles of key leaders, identifying those most likely to respond rationally to disclosure. They created educational materials that could explain the reality of galactic civilization in terms humans could comprehend. 3 months after Nyala's visit, they detected a major Draconid operation in progress. Their infiltrators had gained influence over a multinational technology corporation, one developing quantum computing systems. If successful, the Draconids would introduce subtle modifications to these systems, creating a backdoor into Earth's most sensitive networks. The potential for control would be unprecedented. We have no choice, Lori told Kate. We need to stop this directly. Subtle counters won't be enough. The network's resources were mobilized. A team of trusted members with corporate connections engineered a financial scandal that temporarily halted the quantum computing project. Network hackers identified and isolated the Draconid modifications, removing them from the system. Network scientists introduced error-checking protocols that would prevent similar tampering in the future. The operation was successful, but it forced their hand. The Draconids would know now that organized resistance existed on Earth, that someone understood their technology and methods. Escalation was inevitable. The response came swiftly. 3 network members disappeared. Within a week, Draconid agents had identified them as threats and removed them. 2 were later found with their memories altered. The 3rd never reappeared. The message was clear. The Shadows' war was becoming more dangerous. We need to move to the next phase, Lori announced after these attacks. Selective disclosure to key government officials. The network's resources are too limited to counter the Draconids alone. We need the organized resources of Earth governments. The disclosure plan had been prepared months in advance. Carefully selected officials from 7 major nations would be approached simultaneously. Each would be shown irrefutable evidence of both Virillian and Draconid presence on Earth. Each would be guided toward controlled responses rather than panic or military action. The network's members in key positions would help manage the aftermath. Kate would approach the American officials. Lori would remain hidden, her alien connections making her too valuable to risk in direct contact. The date was set for 3 weeks later, giving the network time for final preparations.